Welcome back to the league that means nothing on Go Again Gaming.
And welcome back to Season 4 of The League That Means Nothing here at Go Again Gaming. My name is Kiki, and I am super excited because I get to bring to you a Prism game. Now, if you know who I am, or if you know anything about me, or if you see the little Prism behind me, I'm quite a fan of the Light Illusionist class talent combination. So I'm super stoked. We got a bit of a board state battle, some yellow pitch heroes going on, as we have the hottest, arguably best deck in the format right now in Gravy Bones, as piloted by Paul Bundak. I hope I'm pronouncing the names right. Nope, sorry, I'm lying too, by Stephen Berliant. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. And we have Paul on Prism. So, let's be real. I'm going to do my best to be unbiased here. I obviously have a lot more experience on the Prism side. The matchup can be a bit difficult, but it's a very skill-testing matchup, I find. Trying to maintain your board, get rid of your opponent's board, knowing when you want to build a board rather than have like an attack presence. Both heroes don't have weapons that actually attack. So to clear board, you have to go with your actual attack action cards. So it's going to be super interesting to see how these players play it. And yeah, it's just going to be... It's going to be skill testing, if I had to describe it any other way. I have not watched either of these players play before to my memory, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, super excited. Ready to learn, ready to watch, ready to give my point of view. And most importantly, I'm ready to see some heralds flip. Ready to see some cards get drawn. See what equipment they have. Let's just get into it, I reckon. So, I'll be with you in the game soon.
Today's game for the League That Means Nothing is brought to you by local game shop Void Games out of Crewe in Cheshire, United Kingdom. Focusing on trading card games, of course, Flesh and Blood being the favourite, and of course a lot of organised play there going down for all of your favourite games, casual and competitive. So make sure you go drop them a like on Facebook. That's Void Games. Cheers, Tom.
And here we are with some round 4 action here on Season 4 of the League That Means Nothing here at Go Again Gaming. And we are off to the races at the start. We are playing the Golden Tipple. Now, this looks serious. We have all cold foil equipment as far as I can tell. We are rocking the, Mage Master Boots from Arcane Rising as a way to play multiple non-attack actions in a turn. So we might get some like double kind of ally action, make the most of it, but we have already started with a Gold Kiss Rum in play from that Golden Tipple, and that beautiful cold foil gold token. Looks like we're using that already as well. Just to discard an ally. Can't tell which one that one is off the top of my head. The art on the allies is quite dark, so I will do my best to kind of make sure that I've got the right. We have Rigor Mortis. There we go. The powerhouse common in both draft and limited. 6 power, attack functionally. For 2 very good baseline stats. Only 1 health, but that's kind of fine. Now we are getting the gold baited hook attack or activation on this, so it's coming in for 6. Really testing that Prism. Hey, do you have a bunch of no blocks here? No. We have 2 heralds ready to get in front of this Rigor Mortis and passing it back to Paul on Prism. So, key equipment note here. We have the Vestige of Soul? No, that's not right. We have the Imperial Rapture. Sorry, Vestige of Soul is what I am used to running in this sort of matchup. And the kind of thing to note about this matchup in particular is that you can't defend your allies from being attacked, but it will still trigger on hits that don't specify heroes. So we're going to see a lot of these heralds go into the allies, because that's the only way to clear them really without having angels on the field, but also it's going to guarantee your soul, it's going to guarantee the on-hit if there's an applicable one. Like with Herald of Erudition, you're going to draw a couple cards. We're getting our Figment of War early. This is going to get a Courage token, giving +1 to the next attack action card being played, which is really good in this scenario. It means that your yellows go from 6 to 7, really forcing that breakpoint, especially now that there's no ally in play to attack. And then, the Herald of Erudition drawing a couple cards already, so we've seen 1, 2 cards in hand, draw 2. So there should be 4 cards more in hand if I'm not mistaken, for a fairly big turn as well. It'll be interesting to see if we get the flip and attack with the Figment of War as well. That is kind of an expendable one at this point. So you could do that just to kind of load the pressure on. Now, I don't know the lists. I have not seen the lists. I'm going to emphasize that. But, Gravy does have a fair amount of 6-power attacks, whether it be things like the Sloop. Of course, you have Command and Conquer, and the all-powerful Conqueror of the High Seas. So here we go. We're using that Rapture. We're getting a bit aggressive here. We are flipping into Bellona, Archangel of War. 2 to attack. It's going to get go again from the Luminaris. And also, if you want to banish a soul, then you get the bonus of putting +1 counters on each of your angels. Of course, there is no soul here. This is just 4 damage, 4 life, getting that 8 points of value potentially. I say 4 life, If you get attacked by a golden tipple, you don't block it. It's not worth 4 life anymore. But that's the ceiling that we can see from this card. But for now, 4 damage coming through. We still have 3 cards in hand, I believe, if you pull, which is a great position to be in. You can launch another Herald at face, try to get that damage through, or force some blocks, or you can maybe play an Aura in this. There we go. There's an Arclight Sentinel. So we're finishing this turn without an arsenal. We have an Arclight Sentinel, which is going to make it difficult to attack and to pull this turn, attack into that angel this turn, because that Arclight Sentinel has a big flashing sign above it saying, you have to attack me first. And you're going to lose your action point, so if you can't get any more action points through non-go-again methods, that's it. Thankfully, if you're Steven, if you're Gravy, you do have a lot of non-action cards that you're happy to play. And here we have Call to the Grave. Now, this is a bit of a toolbox card, super powerful card, and arguably one of the best ways to get around Arclight Sentinel, should Steven choose. You can discard Back Alley Breakline. There it is. So what Back Alley Breakline does is it gives you an action point when it goes into a face-up zone from your deck. So the Call to the Grave already has Go Again, Back Alley Breakline. Gonna give you another action point, so this is a way that you can clear the Arclight Sentinel and continue to apply the pressure on. Now, as far as I'm aware, not all Gravy decks play the same number. Some play 1, some play 3, some play 2. We'll find out how many, we're not sure, but first of all, here's a Chart the High Seas. So you can select the top 2. Looks like there's a blue and a yellow, which is exactly what you want to see. You get the pitch from the blue. You're going to get another Gold Kiss from the... Where's the Gold Kiss from? No, sorry. You're not getting the Gold Kiss from when you discard it. But there's the Saltwater Swell just attacking the Arclight Sentinel. You do not get the pitch trigger from it. But things are okay still, nonetheless, if you're Steven, You're just happy to clear that Arclight Sentinel and not completely lose your turn. We are getting the Gravy Loot ability. Discarding, I think that's Sawbones. If I had to put a name to it. Paying 2, there we are. So Sawbones kind of like Rigor Mortis's older, slightly more powerful sibling. Same power, 6. Has slightly more health at 2. Not the most relevant per se in this scenario, but it does have the ability to prevent damage dealt to either you or your ally. So it can make some numbers weird. Thankfully for Prism, her number's already huge, so not too much of an issue there. It does make it a bit awkward with arcane damage hitting allies, because that is one of the ways you can clear. But for the meantime, we're going to try to deny that full 4 value from that angel by attacking with 3 go again in the form of Saltwater Swell, revealing a blue off the top, giving Steven some resources, and a gold was produced thanks to that Charter High Seas, so this gold baited hook, not so much bait. You know? Nothing to lose here. But what we can gain is 6 damage with a non-hit. And hit it shall. There's 6 damage there. Thing to note, if you're not familiar with this matchup, or if you're not familiar with Gravy, these allies don't have a block value. So even though we've seen 2 allies already with 6 power, you can't block them and pop angels. But that's not to say that we're not expecting other Herald Poppers in the matchup. So, we'll see how we get along. For the meantime, that's a blue, so that's not turning Luminaris on. But we are getting Herald of Protection coming into the ally, making the Spectral Shield, and searching for a Figment. I have to imagine maybe we're looking at Erudition here. I don't believe I saw Paul have a hand. I believe that Courage token should be popped, because you did play an attack action. But it's hard to know exactly which point of the sequencing, shortcutting, whatever, that they're onto without actually hearing the game. So we get Figment of Protection. This one makes another Spectral Shield upon entering. There we go. There's that Courage token going away. And we should have a second Spectral Shield just to kind of buffer that life total a little bit. Prism notably does start on 32 life. It's a bit of a sizable downside. But of course, each of these Figments potentially being worth up to 4 life, you do make up for that over the course of the game. Oh, sorry, excuse me. Yes. So, it looks like no blue. We're going straight to the arsenal. There was a card in hand that I just missed. But there we go. We have a couple of Spectral Shields. We have an unflipped Figment, choosing not to flip it with the Empyrean Rapture. And, yeah, I kind of like not flipping it here. Your life total's not in a huge threat. There's no allies available in the discard pile as far as I remember. So you're going to make Steven do a little bit of work. There is access to gold, so there is a discard outlet ready. We do have the compass as well to search. We are playing the Portside Exchange. That confused me for a bit. Discarding a card, and if it was yellow, you get to create a gold token. You also draw a card. But we're not discarding yellow. We are discarding an amulet. I can't tell which amulet that is off the top of my head. Sapphire, maybe? I'm sure when it comes up, the card last played will show it, and that'll be very convenient for both you and me. But until then, we are looking at maybe a Gold Kiss Rum activation? Yeah, there we go. So Gold Kiss Rum activation, so we're not doing the loot action today, because we already have cards in the discard pile that we want to play with Watery Grave. But Gold Kiss Rum is being pitched for... not from Banish. Not Banish. Discard. I was right the first time. But we're getting Rigor Mortis in play, not attacking with it, instead launching this Command and Conquer, turning off defense reactions for the turn. Usually Soul Shield, one of the premium ways to defend your life total, and also get Soul, but we're not getting that. Instead, we're losing our Herald of Ravages. I think that's I can't tell if it's red or blue. But it is a Herald of Ravages going away. And also losing those Spectral Shields. But Paul deciding he'd rather keep 4 cards in hand and continue going. What's happening here? So I think we're just describing what's the sequence here. The Rigor Mortis is played. Oh, there we go. So... yeah, there we go. Right. So, because playing out the amulet has the go again from the Gravy, and then you can play the Rigor Mortis afterwards, do the same line. Just a little bit of kindness there, Showing a bit of understanding how the game works, and like it's a little bit missequenced, but that's okay. The players know what's happening, and it's a Pearl amulet. So that's going to allow Steven to gravy a couple times in a turn, or maybe use the Gold Kiss Rum and the gravy. But for the meantime, Herald of Ravages coming in. Don't know what the target is at the moment, but it is 6 damage with on hit, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero specifically. But we're not having any of that. We've got a Blanche coming up over here. So what Blanche does is it's a 7 power card. That's basically all it is on defense, and that's good enough to stop any sort of these illusionary, imaginary threats. It feels wrong saying that as like a fan of Prism, but like that's what they are, right? These illusions, you know, if you have a strong enough physical will, then these imaginary threats don't mean anything. But we have blue Wartune Herald coming in for 5 into the Rigor Mortis. And this is going to get another card, another Figment, out of the deck, so you don't draw it, and into play so you get a bit of a bonus. And I think maybe this is where we're going to go for Erudition. There we go, yeah. So Erudition gets you a Ponder token. More importantly, it follows the Herald of Erudition and has the ability to draw a couple of cards when you attack with it on the other side. Super powerful. Combo's great with Arclight Sentinel. If you have Vestige of Soul, then it gives you even more resources to play those Arclight Sentinels without having to rely on blues. But even without that sort of line, like, it's just arguably one of the most powerful cards in the game. And I don't mean that in a biased way. I just mean, you know, even the worst case scenario, or the not best case scenario of just drawing a couple cards, attacking for 4, gaining 4 life out of 1 card is absurdly up on value. Not to mention the fact that, you know, this just gave Paul an arsenal when he wouldn't have had one otherwise, so super great value here. But speaking of super great value, we are discarding the 3rd Rigor Mortis to this Golden Tipple, creating a gold token, and drawing a card. Like, Golden Tipple is the reason why Gravy is so good, I think. Golden Tipple doesn't affect the other high C heroes as much as it does Gravy. Like, I play Puffin, don't play Golden Tipple. Golden Tipple can be played in Marlin. You know, you can make your Goldfin Harpoon, discard that, draw a card. That's pretty decent value. But the raw engine it provides for Gravy to keep your deck going, keep you chugging through, playing your allies from your watery grave. As we saw in the previous turn, like, giving up the Gold Kiss Rum is a real cost to play that Rigor Mortis that ultimately took a card out of Paul's deck and gave him a soul to then get the Erudition. Like, it's really hard to evaluate the cards, like, with allies and not having weapons to hit them. So I don't know the exact numbers, but like, giving up the Gold Kiss Rum to not get maybe the most value that you expect from your usual allies, kind of tough. So Gold Kiss Rum, turning the deck on, getting in for a bit of damage. Also, like, taking Spectral Shields or Ward at a really inefficient rate for the Prism. Just the card is super impressive to the point where maybe it's prohibitive. I know there's a bit of discussions, let's say, about Golden Tipple, about its power level in the format, but for the meantime it exists, and we're seeing its power. Speaking of power, there's an Eye of Ophidia in the pitch zone. You know, these gems come at a real cost, not just financially, they don't block, is what I actually meant there before I caught myself. But when you do get the value off it, it's pretty good. And when you're seeing as many cards in a turn extra because of the gold, things like Eye of Ophidia really help you build your turns properly. Is that Barnacle? Potentially? We're getting a Dread Threads activation, gaining a resource because an ally has hit the discard pile this turn, and we're getting the Mage Master Boots, giving an action point to the next non-attack action here, pitching a card to play that Swabby, not Barnacle. And he's just a bit bigger than Rigor Mortis. I said that Soulbones was like Rigor Mortis' older sibling. Swabby is the other older sibling. This one comes in for bigger numbers. It's got 2 more health at 3. It's got 7 power. That is a breakpoint, but there's no on-hit here. If you're Paul, maybe you're considering just using your life total as a resource here. You know that you're going to get some life back through these figments as the game progresses. So, like, maybe this is the chance where you get to keep your hand, maybe apply a bunch of pressure back. There are a couple of allies, So you are hoping for some sort of arcane damage shenanigans to kind of clear both of them within the same turn. Ideally, you want to force Steven to play new allies every turn. So that is a route that Paul could be considering here. Route, decision. But of course, there's also potentially the decision of, hey, my life total is getting low. Nope, it can go lower. We're taking 7. We've cut Paul's life total by roughly 33% almost. But this means that Paul has access to the full 4 cards plus arsenal plus potentially what happens with the Air Edition and whether that is a go or not. And like the upside here is now you have the Air Edition to attack the allies. So now you don't have to commit a real card into the ally. You can send them at face. Speaking of, we have Herald of Protection coming in to Swabby, first and foremost. So we do care a little bit, but we're going to get more Figments, we're going to get more Soul, we're going to make sure we got some gas for the following turns. Kind of cut into this life total lead here. Like I said, this game's kind of a slog, and Prism always starts off on the back foot. One of the things I enjoy about Prism, of course, is that it feels like you've climbed back into the game for many of her games. Not necessarily all of them, but for many of her games. And here's those arcane damage shenanigans I was talking about. Figment of Ravage is a key card in this matchup, dealing 1 arcane damage to any target specifically. So that usually does not go face in this matchup. It usually goes into Rigor Mortis or Limpet if your opponent has given you one of those options. You do have some nice synergy with the Halo where you can find it during your opponent's turn if they attack you with Rigor Mortis or with Limpet. But we're not going for the gotcha moment here. We're just going straight for the value. Make sure there are no allies here. Soraya gonna come in for 4, drawing a couple cards. And Paul wants another attack here. Paul wants another attack to go face. Either force cards out of Steven or force him to take damage just so he can build up a board once again. We are getting the Guardwell equipment here. You should know the name of this, but this is in Japanese. I'm going to wait for it to come up. But, this defense for 2, and then you can crack it to draw a card if your opponents draw 2 cards, which is the exact number, of course, that Soraya draws for the ability. So Steven trying to go for a 5-card hand here, whether it's going to be used partially defensively, mostly defensively, not at all defensively, that's to find out. But for the meantime, it's kind of, you want to block with this Balance of Justice before you crack it for the card draw. Super powerful card. It's really changed how the decks have kind of played, and they're just kind of forcing the 9 tipples so they don't have to play Crown of Dominion. Speaking of forcing, though, we have Herald of Triumph coming in for 7. Super powerful card. Doesn't have an on-hit outside of going for Soul, but that's what you want. That's your secret secondary resource of your Prism. But more importantly, this kind of stops a lot of the poppers. Not all of them. We've seen a Blanche already, which is 7 power. But Command and Conquer, the Sloop, if that's in the deck. Or if you're so bold, maybe an Erase Face. But I don't think that sees play in many lists right now. But most importantly, those 6 power poppers do not work here. And we're getting Angelic Wrath. Kind of an extra card in Paul's hand here. Maybe, it's in the matchup usually so you can save it for defense reactions, whatever, which Gravy is known to have some normally. But when it's just in your hand, you might as well get the damage while you can, especially when your opponent's shown that they're not blocking it. So the best they can do is defense reactions, and if they got a couple of those, you're going for the top with Angelic Wrath anyway. Big damage. Life totals have been cut closer, 13 to 24. We have the Figment of Judgment here. Now, this one doesn't have a relevant effect. There are no real banish moments from either player, or rather from Gravy. So you're not really looking to activate this for its effect. What you are looking for is 4 life, 4 damage potentially. But looks like we're not flipping any angels. Could have. Cards went to Soul, so Empyrean Rapture was live. But kind of waiting until we get the Soul before we commit to it, which I like. I'm a fan of. You do get put in awkward situations if you just start flipping them once a turn just because you think it's efficient. That's fairly easy for Gravy to clear up. Whereas once you get a lot of soul, you can make sure you're getting the full effects from them. Of course, also I don't remember how my own cards work. You can only actually flip one angel a turn. So ignore my whole rant about this play. There was literally not a legal choice to flip that. We have the... Sorry. We have the gravy activation here. This is going to loot a card. And then we're going to get the post-loot look. As my locals would say, they love a cheeky look. Really help with the decision making of the turn. Check out the texture of the hand, I believe is the phrase people use. But also just, the sheer amount of cards that Gravy gets access to, potentially, through the loot, through the gold, through so many different ways. Through playing Saltwater Swell and getting extra pitch. That's a couple of blues there. There's an Arsenal on the other side. There's a Soraya that's currently being threatened by 1 damage. I'm lying. This is Page Shield. The Soraya was not under threat to 1 damage. So maybe we don't see a Conqueror here, but that we still could. Conqueror is pretty backbreaking. Now we're spending a couple resources here to play that Swift Water Sloop. Sorry, all these cards have very similar names, and they're kind of difficult to say sometimes if you're not so onto it, which has never been my brand, let's be real. So Swift Water Sloop, I can now confirm is in the deck. It's 6 go again. So now we're threatening Soraya. Even if you block to the 3 block, you're still losing Soraya. So this secretly has a little on-hit-ish kind of effect going on here. And yeah. If you're Pole, you maybe have to consider the option of keeping the Soraya, but it's going to be so difficult. You can expect another attack after this, especially with Soul Bones in the discard pile. If it was really bad, then Steven could always crack the Pearl Amulet just to get a blue in the discard pile. Oh no, it was a blue Saltwater Swell, wasn't it? So like that, I guess I'm wrong. We are untapping the Gravy. We're activating the Gravy, getting rid of this gold to draw a card, discard a card, and then, maybe Steven has an abundance of allies in hand that are difficult to pitch and play, and you don't really want to arsenal them, especially when you've already done that once and used up the gold. So we're discarding a Tip the Barkeep, a blue card. Oh my goodness. Golden Tipple for the 3rd Soul Bones here. Getting that gold back already. How quick? How easy? 3 damage. Not threatening an ally this time, but just threatening a huge chunk of life when you're 11. Paul, of course, can decide to pitch a yellow card, lose a soul, transform one of these angels into figments into an angel, rather. But you're only working with 2 soul. If you're Paul, it's kind of difficult. You don't really want to give them both up, or even one of them up this early, just to prevent 3 damage. But of course, if you're taking 3, you're suddenly at 8, which is exactly the point that we're at now. So, Soulbones hits the field. Using 2 resources, we are hooking along, and this is coming in for 6. There we have a couple of cards, and yeah, now we're kind of on the backside. We don't really have any angels to buffer that life total at the moment, because it does cost resources, not just soul. You do have to spend resources to flip if you don't have the Vestige of Soul alive, but we're hoping to fix that right now. Sorry. Excuse me. It's 4:45 in the morning. We are getting a Wartune Herald for 6. No Phantasm here. This one looks like it's coming at Steven's face, not the ally. I think. Considering that the ally hasn't moved off the table. But 6 damage, no Phantasm. So this is kind of a desperation, just really trying to pressure cards here. And Steven's going to respect it. But that's huge. We're blocking with... This deck is so pretty. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. We are blocking with a Sunken Treasure, creating another gold token. This Gravy Boat is rich. And Tip the Barkeep, also hitting the discard pile at the same time. Just denying the soul. we've already gotten rid of the Soraya, but like one of the ways that the Prism deck can get back into the game is by making these figments like, worth abilities. Not just gain 4 life, but also something with pressure. And like the figment of protection that we're going to see here getting transformed into Aegis. Personally, one of my favorite heralds / angels. Yeah, like we have no soul left of your Prism, so you got to be a bit confident that you can protect this Aegis, and then not only just protect the Aegis, but get your soul back as well, or at the very least, have some hope that your next turn is going to be very soulful. Is that a thing? I don't know. Also, crucially, the other thing about stopping the Wartune Herald, of course, is that a card didn't enter the soul, so the Vestige wasn't live. Having to pitch actual resources to transform the Aegis is kind of tough instead of being able to attack with it. And then get another couple of Spectral Shields. Actually, did the Aegis attack? There are 2 shields, not 1. Oh wait, of course, yeah. Don't mind me, we did get the Aegis attack. Everything's fine, everything's okay. It's a little bit less okay when there's a Golden Temple. That's going to go ahead and eat both Spectral Shields there. Just a little bit of board state maintenance from the previous turn, We know what's happening, though. It's okay. There's a lot of moving parts in Flesh and Blood, and that Golden Temple did a lot of moving to create more gold. I don't know what ally that is in the discard pile. Is that the Soulbone still? These Marvel allies, stunning, beautiful, gorgeous. Love them. Difficult for me to tell what they are on camera. I think that is Soulbones, though. Oh. Okay, so we had a draw up from Steven, and we have Herald of Triumph coming back, trying to reclaim that tempo. We're getting an on hit, so 6 damage. Again, Herald of Triumph, while it has a very powerful ability, if your opponent's choosing not to block it, is like as vanilla as the Heralds get. Kind of like a slightly more expensive Fortune Herald, but you're okay with that, It's still 6 damage, you're getting resources, your Aegis didn't die, which is huge. There was no blues, I guess, for Steven in the last turn. Just wasn't able to draw one off that Golden Tipple and not able to carry on with that turn. So a bit of a lucky break if you're Paul. Gotta be thanking your lucky stars, whatever Flesh and Blood deity you respect, pray to. I don't know. Just to kind of keep a board state here, and here we're seeing the Themis flip. Again, this one does not have a relevant ability in this matchup, but what it does do is provide a life buffer and maybe attack for 4. So I think there are 2 cards left in hand. Maybe 1. We're moving these aside, which makes me think maybe we're getting an attack action card. There's the pitch. So something's coming here. Oh, okay. Nope, we are going for the Themis after all. There's 1 resource remaining here. 4 damage, no effect. But this is kind of like a big scar for a scar. Not scar for a scar, a big life for a life. Right? Like this could gain up to 4 life. It's dealing 4 damage. Get to keep an arsenal, and suddenly the life totals are 6 apart. It's close. This is kind of what Prism does. Really capitalizes on your opponents not being able to keep the pressure the whole time, and come back, close up the life gap, and once you close up that life gap, if your opponent doesn't have paupers, your attacks are significantly more efficient than your opponent's. Just real talk, Oh, that camera angle changed slightly. Steven's camera is getting sea legs, but Steven's board state is getting Conqueror of the High Seas. Super powerful card. Almost like, not necessarily the namesake, but like one of the most known cards from the set. Oh my goodness. We're double boating. We are double boating. We cleared off the double ally situation with the first boat. Second boat coming for that arsenal. And Steven just wants to make sure that we are looking at this board state right now. Let's get that fixed. Perfect. Beautiful. Well done. And not only is this presenting the entirety of Paul's life total, so there has to be a block somewhere, this is threatening that arsenal card. I don't believe a blue has hit the grave just yet. I don't think there's a card in hand. Now, this is tough. Because if you're giving up your Phantasmal Footsteps here, which at this moment you currently are, suddenly, if your angels get popped, that's your turn end. You don't have the failsafe, and that's relevant because we've seen poppers in Steven's deck, and he hasn't actually played many of them, as far as I can remember. There was one Saltwater Sleep and one Command and Conquer, so there's still a fair bunch of 6-power poppers left on the deck. But for the meantime, Paul's gone to 1, and he's taking the Conqueror of the High Seas. So Steven not having any actions to really capitalize on that 1 life here, but perhaps that's why Paul chose to go to 1, because, sees that the coast is clear of attacks after the second Conqueror, but still, that turn was rough if you're Paul. Not quite the same damage output, but pretty darn close. We have War Tune Herald Red, 1 cost for 7. It's a ridiculously efficient card. This card is absurd. Not because it does anything, but because it costs 1 less. The thing that separates this one from the others is that it costs 1 less. Of course, it guarantees your soul. Well, on hit, it gives you a soul, is what I should say. It'll turn on the Vestige of Soul here. Nope. It'll turn the Empyrean Rapture here, which will let Paul flip one of these figments face up to either attack with, or at the very bare minimum, grant him 4 more life, which is kind of needed when you're on 1. And we are getting more wandering action from Steven. There's the popper there, and like I mentioned, there is no Phantasmal Footsteps anymore, but we have the Halo. So we still have the Halo. We are putting a card from hand into Arsenal. Is that a figment? Yes, it is. Or rather, I messed up my own joke. There's a Herald from the Halo, which means that he gets to search for a figment because it's his action phase, or it's an action phase, rather. And this is going to give attack action cards that opponents control -1. Crucially, that means the Fortune Herald is now blocking for 5, and we're getting some more figment action. I believe that Halo should be off the playmat, upside down something. And now if you're pulling, you're trying to decide which figment you get. I don't know if there's any other ones at the top of my head that I can think of. There was no Triumph. That one's not very commonly played. That might have been all of them. But there are still resources. So Paul can still flip over, attack, bring this game a little bit closer. There we go. Cleaning up that equipment there. Avalon could get in for 4 here. I think there's still a card in hand. No, we're going to choose to Arsenal instead. And just keep the Avalon around as a life buffer. So not applying the pressure there, choosing to rather not activate the Avalon effect, keep the soul for another figment flip potentially. Now Charge the High Seas is a super consistent card, but not always consistent. So we'll have to see. Never mind, there's 2 blues there, so yeah, consistent that you're probably going to get a blue, but we didn't get the yellow this time to get the gold. But crucially, a blue card has hit the discard pile. 2 of them even. And we have resources now, so there are many ways to get these soul bones out and apply some pressure. And if your opponent's on 1, you have to feel pretty good about having an ally in play. Or we can just go Conqueror number 3. That's fine. That's cool too. 8 damage. It's only 700% more of your life total, Paul. And these numbers are awkward to kind of stop, so we are forced to transform another figment. Going for... blanking on the name. Going for the -1. Is that Triumph? Figment of Triumph? Yes. It is now. But we still have Soul Bones coming out, and that's coming in for 6. You gotta give 2 cards here if you're pull. Yeah, so now you're just functioning on Arsenal plus card in hand plus maybe a figment. Those are your tools to work with. And how Paul's gonna be able to make the most of that, we'll have to wait and see. At least, if you're Prism here, you have to be a little bit thankful that you're probably not going to get conquered with High Seas next turn, because surely there can't be a 4th one. If there is, there are bigger problems ahead. Speaking of big problems, there's Herald of Ravages here, going into the Sawbone, so kind of playing to fatigue, kind of playing here, knowing that there aren't very many allies in the discard pile at the moment. we do have 1 arcane damage going at Steven after the on hit. And we are going to use the Empyrean Rapture to transform into second Archangel Ravages, and yeah. There is a bit of rum drinking that did happen fairly early. Now, as someone who gets motion sick pretty easily, like, oh, this camera is doing things to me. Not in a super pleasant way, but the gameplay has been super efficient. Unfortunately, the camera is just trying to be its own star here. Let's activate the Gravy Bones, get back into the game actions. So, looks like we're doing a cheeky little draw and discard. Can we get rid of a blue and be able to play the allies we have there? Do we need to rebuild some allies maybe? Because as we've seen so far in this game, especially with an angel in play, like, it's pretty easy to clear one ally. It's the second one that becomes a challenge. So it looks like we got a Swabby joining the discard pile. I'm not sure if that deck is particularly thin or if it's just the angle plus sleeve color. So maybe Fatigue is a viable option if, like, the not life totals, if the deck health is getting that low. But I can't tell, honestly. We've got another sunken treasure there. There should be a third one somewhere. We are cracking the gold to draw a card, not activating the Gravy. I mean, he's already been used once this turn. He can't be used again. But point still stands. We are trading a blue to gain a resource to pitch and draw a card, in which we're trading some high seas. Are we going to get that gold back? That looks like, I think it was a red and a blue. Yes. So no gold back, but we are looking at 4 resources. And the high seas has hit the discard pile. So the allies are ready, willing, and able to come into play, barring any sort of issues. But first, we rabble. I think that was a blue. I think we're coming for 3 go again. Again, super obnoxious. Like, not allowing these angels to be full value. So, okay, we're losing the Rapture. This maybe dictates what was revealed and how much it is. That could have been a red, maybe. Kind of looks like it. But we have a fully equipmentless Prism now. It's going to be super difficult to defend here. And we have a Saltwater Swell. Again, these 3 power go. Again, attacks that you don't just want to give up a Figment for. Steven forcing the issue. Do you want to give me more cards? Do you want to keep that second alive? I know there's no soul. You're not getting the arcane damage as things stand right now. So it's really just a matter of, do you want to keep the auras? Not auras. The Figments. And considering that the last one was a fail to find, this might be the last hope for Paul's board state plans. Especially because here's Swabby. Just a huge amount of damage. 7. You can block 3 and 4 with a second, which will stop it from killing you, but you've given away your threats, basically. So, I know I said that Paul made a big climb early in the game. He's going to have to do it again. You're going to have to make another huge climb, or it's going to be more difficult still. But, back to Steven. Paul drew 4 cards. This is not a very pressureful turn. That's that a word? Pressureful turn from Paul, which has given Steven the full tempo here to run amok. Saltwater Swell. This is going to be the blue for the turn. Pitching a Call to the Grave from the top of the deck. So we got a full 5 resources here. That means we could, like, play some ally action maybe. Blocking with Pierce Reality. One of my favorite blue auras in Prism. But its blocking prowess is not one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites. At the very least, it does block for enough to not die, which I guess is the most you can ask for from your cards and your deck at this point. We'll see how Steven follows that up. Maybe the camera falls over again, and we can time out. No, that's a joke. I think Steven's deciding if he wants to apply more pressure and more go again attacks. We're playing the Tip the Bar Keep to create a Gold Kiss Rum. So now, because that Gravy hasn't been activated, we can do shenanigans like this, where we give Swabby go again, while still having cards in hand, meaning that we're probably getting more damage after this. And this is a 3-card block because of that breakpoint. A card's already blocked with. Paul has no cards in hand. Like, this is a very simple, whatever attack he wants, if it works. Paul showing there's no cards in hand, that Anka coming in, and that is the end of the game. Congratulations to Steven for a wonderful job playing Gravy and winning the yellow pitch mirror. Wow, what a game. Like, there was back and forth. We saw the Prism players start to get back into the game, wasn't fully able to capitalize, and like just having enough allies on Gravy's side. Like, those allies come in for big chunks of damage, choosing not to go for the limpet plan, at least that we saw. There was no limpets there. But it was a lot of like big damage. We had the go again presence in the Swiftwater Sloops. Nope. I mean, there was a Swiftwater Sloop, but I mean the Saltwater Swells and the Golden Tipples, providing a little bit of extra resources to like make sure the turns kind of go on, and that's kind of what makes the deck powerful, the Gravy deck. Like, you have these annoyances of damages that your opponent's kind of disincentivized to block, or if you're a Prism, like, you really have to block them to try to get your value from your Angels. I don't recall any Angels being worth that full 4 on defense other than like the Conqueror turns. There might have been one that I can't remember right now. But yeah, like, Steven doing a fantastic job of making sure that these Angels were not giving full value, and just really keeping that pressure on, making sure there was always like a couple of allies you can go with, making sure your turns were worth like big numbers, and that's what Gravy does. As for the Prism player, like, we did see some great turns, like Herald of Erudition going into the ally, classic maneuver. It's kind of like Prism's equivalent of going Whirling Mist Blossom into an ally, draw a couple of cards. But we saw that Guardwell equipment come into play, stop the Figment of Erudition, or mitigate some of the effect of the Figment of Erudition by being able to block a couple damage and draw some extra card. Goodness. Yeah, ultimately, that's kind of how the game goes. Like, that's how the matchup plays. Eventually, one player kind of takes the lead, and it's kind of difficult to get back into it. There were a couple times where the Gravy player wasn't able to fully capitalize as well, and that kind of helped Prism get back into it. Not having blues is painful for Gravy in the same way that not having yellows is painful for Prism. We did see that one turn where the Herald of Protection, I believe, was played off of blue, so no go again actions there. But yeah, ultimately, that was the game. The players played well, and it was, as a Prism lover, it was difficult to see that. But I really appreciate both players and how they played that. I thought they played really well. I learned a bunch. And yeah, I'm looking forward to my teammates beating me on Gravy while I represent the lone Prism in my team. Anyway, thank you for joining us here on The League That Means Nothing Season 4, Round 4 action. If you haven't seen the other game that I'm commentating already, you should go and watch that when that comes out, if it hasn't already, because that was a banger of a game as well. And don't forget to check out all of the beautiful casters that we have here on The League That Means Nothing. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all those things. Follow whoever you want on the socials, whether it be the casters or as himself. Just make sure you keep up to date with all of the games. And until then, I will see you next time. Goodbye.